Coming off a 6-3 win over Philadelphia to open up a 4-game road trip, the Rangers, they find themselves at a very interesting crossroads right now, with the organization publicly framing this moment as a retool, not a teardown. The challenge now is balancing short-term results with long-term development. So, to help us break down where the Rangers are heading, what their current 4-game road trip means as they battle the Ducks in Anaheim later tonight, and how all of this impacts the locker room, I'm joined by Andrew Chelney, co-host of the Liberty Blue podcast, here with me now. Andrew, the last time you joined me, you had a lot to say about the Rangers, a lot to get off your chest. We're going to do some of that today. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome, Dex. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. But, Andrew, let's talk about this. The Rangers, they won. They won a game. They ended a losing streak. They got that 6-3 win over Philly to open up this 4-game road trip. How do you contextualize where the Rangers are right now? Are they still chasing wins first, or are we seeing the early stages of a philosophical shift here?
They shouldn't be chasing wins at this point. I mean, wins are great, right? You would rather a team win than lose at any point in the season. But you have to, again, zoom out and be logical and, neutral on this for a second. The Rangers are dead last in the Eastern Conference. They are the only team in the Eastern Conference below 500. The line right now is 9 points, and they've played the most amount of games, tied with Washington in the Eastern Conference with 49 games, and they can't score goals. And the game against Philadelphia showed something. They, at least for 2 periods, they looked like a real hockey team for a little bit, so that was fun. The Philadelphia goaltending kind of wasn't super great, which kind of gave the Rangers a little, more of a window to play around with. But yeah, the game against Philadelphia was fine. They played that third period, kind of Philadelphia ran over them a little bit, but they got the win. It was a good start, but the Rangers need so much more to even make a dent in this deficit that they have, and for what they want to do, especially with that letter that Drury put out a few days ago, they need to sell. They need to trade. They already said that they weren't extending the superstar Tony Panarin to a contract extension, so they're going to trade him for hopefully at least a first-round pick, and also somebody that, a young player that can be the potential future for this team, because right now the cupboard for them is pretty barren. They don't have anybody that they can look to take over that next era of the Rangers. And, it's tough because when you're quote-unquote retooling, you still have one of the best goalies on the planet in Igor Shesterkin. You still have one of the best defensemen on the planet in Adam Fox. So how do you retool on the fly while also being competitive? That's a difficult thing if you're Chris Drury.
That is the multi-million-dollar question for Chris Drury, and you just mentioned the letter last week that the fan base got. And since that letter from Chris Drury, there's been a lot of discussion lately about retooling rather than fully tearing things down, or full rebuild, Andrew, I should say. So from what you've seen, how difficult is it for a team to balance winning games, which we just saw them do in their last game, while simultaneously prioritizing development? Like, how hard is it to balance that?
It's hard from a locker room perspective. If you're one of the bigger names on the team, that you're either going to get dealt or you're going to be asked to waive your no-move clause or your no-trade clause. And it's tough when you know that your team probably isn't making the playoffs, and your mind starts to think about, okay, well, where is Chris going to try to move me, or am I going to get asked to go somewhere else? It's tough. It's never an easy position for any player to be in, and it definitely has to weigh on at least a number of people in the locker room. At the same time, for the Rangers, that game against Philly was their first real effort, I want to say, and at least since their win against Florida outside. They went on that losing streak, and they looked like they didn't want to be there. And that's really the biggest concern for me is, it's one thing to lose games just because you're not good enough, but the effort wasn't there. You give up 10 goals to Boston. You give up 8 goals to Ottawa. You go up a couple of goals against Seattle, and then you blow that game. And there's the effort consistency just was not there the past couple of weeks. And maybe the letter reignited some people. Maybe, that got some of the locker room to kind of wake up and realize, we should, because if the letter didn't do it, then at that point you're kind of lost in the sauce there. So it's tough. The win should come, but you also need to prioritize, okay, especially if you trade guys like Panarin. If you trade a Panarin, if you trade a Trocheck, if you trade, maybe Zibanejad waves, maybe somebody else waves and wants to go somewhere else, and you get young guys that you want to see what they do, you got to play them. And the thing about young players in the NHL is if you think that somebody is going to be a potential top 6 player, you need to let them go. You need to let them make mistakes. That's how the best players learn on the fly in the NHL. If you staple a guy, and the Rangers did this with Alexei Lafreniere in his draft year, if you staple him to the third line, he's not going to and have a tight leash with him and really not let him grow into his own, you're going to see a lot of hesitancy, a lot of, I can't make a mistake because then the coach will bench me. You have to let the players grow and make mistakes and have those growing pains along the way. So at that point, the shift now becomes, winning is great and always the goal, but you have to prioritize. Once you trade those guys away and you get those young players in return, you got to see what you have in them, and you got to let them fly.
Yeah, it sounds like they got to be all in on the retooling movement here. And look, you mentioned this just there in your last answer because we know certain core players have a major say in their future here with no move clauses. And so from your perspective, how does that level of agency for those veteran players impact locker room accountability during a transitional period like the Rangers are in now? Because how are you going to get other people to listen to you when everybody knows they might be out the door? Everybody knows they might be moving. They don't know where they're moving. They have a say in where they're moving. How does that work with accountability during this transitional period?
It's tough. And you got to think of it this way, too. This is Chris Drury's responsibility to fix because this is Chris Drury's team. He gave all these no-move clauses. He gave all these no-trade clauses.
Fair.
He traded for Carson Soucy last year for a third-round pick, which didn't solve anything, and he has a modified no-trade clause. So a lot of the no-trade and no-move clauses on this team are because Drury gave them away. So if he's going to say that these no-move clauses are, could stand in the way of a potential trade or two, well, that's Drury's responsibility to fix because it's his problem. He's the one that gave them, away kind of like candy almost. Like half the team has some version of no-move clauses or no trade clauses, and that makes it a lot harder. When your best players, are supposed to be the ones that say the right thing, but also do the right thing. But you know that at the back of your mind, like, I have a no move clause. So even if I don't play well or something, or if the team falls apart, I don't have to go anywhere if I don't want to. And that makes accountability so much harder because if a guy like Trocheck didn't have a no trade clause, then Drury could just send him wherever at any moment in time, and Trocheck would know that. But because, I'm just using Trocheck as an example, right? But Panarin has a full no-move clause. Panarin fully controls where he wants to go. And Panarin's been playing pretty okay, but, it's a lot easier said than done to, kind of put the pedal to the metal in almost a lost season at this point for the Rangers. If you're a top player on this team, when you're not making the playoffs, you might get traded. Your teammates, your line mates might get traded. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what might happen tomorrow. The next day, is Drury going to tell me that, hey, like I have this trade to send you to Minnesota or San Jose or wherever? Am I going to say yes to that? There's a lot of things right now that are occupying these guys' heads as opposed to the next game, which makes winning a lot more difficult. But accountability starts at the top. Chris Drury was last season was supposed to be the mulligan for Chris Drury, where everything that could have possibly went wrong last season. And so Drury made a couple, he tried to add JT Miller, he added Carson Soucy, but he traded a bunch of guys away like, Trouba and Kreider and those guys. And Kreider, he traded away, he never filled that gap, and surprise, surprise, Rangers can't score goals as a result. But that was supposed to be his mulligan, and he went out and he thought he made the team better, and the team is worse than they were last year when everything was going wrong. So accountability is, you want a lot of it from your leaders like JT Miller, who has the captaincy on his sweater. But if it doesn't come from Chris Drury, then it kind of just matters less.
I couldn't agree more. but he is the person in charge of this retooling right now, and we'll see how that goes. I guess the last thing for me here, Andrew, finally, if we fast forward to the end of this 4-game road trip, right? Because I'm sure you want to skip the games at this point, as rough as the season has been for you. But what should Rangers fans who are still watching these games be looking for as a meaningful indicator of progress, regardless of the final win-loss record? What does progress look like right now for the Blue Shirts?
Effort. I want to see effort. I want to see everybody playing like they can, like they know they can. And we saw that for 40 minutes against the Flyers, but I want to see a full game effort. I want to see everybody playing to the level of, because people, just like JT Miller and Trocheck and Zibanejad and those guys in the locker room after a game will say, our effort wasn't there or we need a reset. And they're saying all these right things, but then the next game happens and the same issues come about. So for me at this point, it's show me, don't tell me. You can tell me all these great things that you want to try harder, that you're going to fix some things and whatever. But until you show that to me, then all of that is hot air and you're just whispering sweet nothings into my ear. I want to see it on the ice. So for the Rangers, this road trip, I want to see, okay, are the passes crisp? Is Gabriel Perreault, who the Rangers right now are leaning on as their best prospect, as the best forward prospect, can he score a couple more goals? Brandon Othman finally scored his first NHL goal against the Flyers on Saturday after 34 games. And, okay, can that get Othman going? Can he start getting a little hot here? Maybe he scores a couple of goals. Can we get Lafreniere going? Can he show that, some offensive consistency there? Right now for the Rangers, obviously the Rangers would love to win all 4 of these games, but if you zoom in a little bit, it's the minutia, it's the little things. How's the back checking? How's the skating? How's the passing? Are they crisper on offense? Are they thinking about getting the puck to the net as opposed to trying to be too cute and passing it around 15 times and then ultimately not getting a shot on goal? Is in the defensive end, are they blocking the passes? Are they getting that extra stride in to prevent a possible breakout? There's little things that you can watch on every shift that makes you go, okay, this team is locked in or this team is fully out of it. And I would like to see the Rangers do what they did in the first 2 periods against Philadelphia more in this 4-game road trip.
Well, I like something that you said there, Andrew. Actions over words. That's what you would like to see from the Blue Shirts moving forward. They still have 3 games left on this trip. Play the Ducks in Anaheim tonight. We'll see if they can get back-to-back wins. Rangers fans haven't seen that in quite a bit of time. That is Andrew Chelney of the Liberty Blue podcast, co-host there, doing a great job talking Rangers hockey. Andrew, I hope next time we talk, maybe there's a little bit more optimism around this team where we can see where they are in the retooling process, but hopefully better times ahead for the Blue Shirts. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dex. Mixed 2 of us. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.